All right. Good morning, everybody. Um, my name is Jessie Carlton. I work in the Office of Finance and Operations and District Support. We're going to be going through some student tracking, enrollment, and attendance data today. Your screen and a lot of your screens as we roll through this is we're going to say Rhonda and Samantha are going to be with me. Unfortunately, we've had some things come up. They are not with us in office today, so you are stuck with me. So for the next, I think, hour, we're going to talk a little bit about attendance, some trainings that we have coming up, a few changes that we have in the attendance world. We're going to review some things that have caused some questions over the last little bit and are always causing questions like performance-based setup. And then we'll also talk a little bit about FRAM at the end and those free and reduced lunch records. So let's get rolling. First thing we're going to talk about here is an attendance clerk training. KDE has gotten into kind of the world of doing some not specialized, but attendance clerk trainings with Josh Whitlow. Right after COVID, things had changed. So many things had changed. We sent Josh out kind of all over Kentucky, and he did several attendance clerk trainings, and they were very well received. Attendance clerk training is something that normally comes through your local DPP office. The DPP is tasked with training those attendance clerks in each individual district, and that's because there are overreaching rules for attendance, but there's some specific things that districts may do differently in local codes. So that training is designed to come from the DPP office at the local level. But we also like to go and do a few. They were so well received by Josh, and he does such a good job. We're still doing a few of those, and we'll see here in a moment this year. We want you to also remember that it's not just training that comes out of KDE that's helpful. There's also a lot of really good training from Infinite Campus. Campus Community is a great place to start, a great place to look if you are new to the attendance world, if you're new to the Infinite Campus world. If you have an Infinite Campus login, you also automatically have access to Campus Community. There are specific videos in Campus Community. So if you search, attendance codes, you can get not just tutorials and guidance on attendance codes in the system. You can get Kentucky specific because we do like to do things a little bit different here in Kentucky in the attendance world. And so Infinite Campus has worked with us to make sure there are plenty of videos out there and guidance for Kentucky specific attendance rules. So we encourage anyone new to the system, check those out on Campus Community. Campus Passport, also another great opportunity. They do live courses, and they record those. They're free to all IC users. A couple of times a year, they'll do regional IC user groups. There's a fall user group and a spring user group. Always great about bringing new features in Infinite Campus out and teaching those, and there'll always be a KDE update to update things that are going on specific to Kentucky. In our office and district support, we are always very involved in the annual KDPP conference. This year, that is September 17th to 19th in Lexington. So if that's something you're interested in, to go ahead and sign up. There's always great sessions on SAR and virtual and performance-based learning setup. There's a session for new DPPs. There's a session for experienced DPPs. Good training there. And always a good time, the annual Infinite Campus Interchange that has wonderful sessions in Louisville, and this year that's December 4th and 5th. The pupil attendance manual, we are working on that right now. I'm hoping to get that updated for the 25-26 school year here in the next week. Changes are being made to it right now. We'll go over any of the changes here in the next little bit that were made to that. And as always, the KSIS data standards. We're a little behind on our data standards here in district support. One of the things we'll talk about, House Bill 241, this past year has put us a little behind on the SAR, so we're working real hard to get those updated as quickly as we can. Okay, so those attendance clerk trainings that I was talking about, we're putting final touches on those. Josh will be out. There will be a couple different locations. I think Rhonda sent out an email the other day with all of the locations. If you didn't get that email, I'd say reach out to your DPP. At the end of the session here, I'll look and make sure I go over the dates. I think there's 4 locations, one of which being in Frankfort. One of the location in Frankfort, when that session will be recorded. So if you can't make it to any of the locations or to Frankfort, it will be recorded. That's on the first floor conference room here in Sauer. at all our locations, there will be an AM and a PM session, hoping to try and get those clerks out and split the time if you can get them out there. And as an FYI, the Frankfurt session will also have a audit review training, which we're going to talk about next. Our regional field staff, we have 3 ladies across the state who are regional field staff auditors. They should have sent out to DPPs also when their trainings are coming up. They are designed for the districts who are having an audit this year. If you don't know if this is your year to have an audit, feel free to reach out to me or Rhonda or your field staff. If you know who that is, that's going from west to east. That is Ruth, Becky, or Sasha. So if you think that you're up for an audit this year, reach out to them. These are just a kind of a touch point to make sure you know what we're going to be looking for when we come in. We normally don't come in until after your growth factor has been submitted. And those ladies will reach out and let you know what they're going to be looking for. These training sessions will kind of go over everything you need to have prepared for when the auditors do come in and to start taking a look at things like your home hospital forms, anything related to your IEPs that they need to see, go through all of that. Okay, individually here, if you're in Eastern Kentucky, here are the 2 dates Sasha is going to be presenting. She's going to be in Ashland on the July 14th. Actually, she was in Ashland on July 14th, sorry. And tomorrow, she's going to be available via Teams. So if you are in Eastern Kentucky and want to hop on Teams meeting with her tomorrow and you haven't gotten that email or haven't registered, reach out to Sasha today. Her email was on the previous screen and it'll be at the end again. And she'll be happy to get you added to that one. Central Kentucky, we've got 4 options around Central Kentucky to be with Becky. Like I said, if you think you're up for an audit in Central Kentucky, reach out to Becky and make sure you figure out a time to meet with her. If you can't get to any of these 4 sessions, let's see, here she's going to Scottsville, here in Frankfurt, then Jamestown and Burlington. And then out in Western Kentucky, Ruth kind of has a big area to track, so she has a few more sessions available. She's going from Hardinsburg to Dixon to Paducah and to KSIS. So she actually has a link right there for the Western Kentucky ones to register. If you have this slide deck, you can click on that right there and go ahead and register with Ruth if you're in Western Kentucky. And like I said, also, if you can't make any of these times with the field staff, they are also going to be in Frankfurt at the session that will be recorded. So that's always an option as well. Okay, we're going to get into just some general reminders and overview here. This is a question that comes up to us every year. You know, if you have a student who is attending KSD or KSB, you know, what do we do? How do we track them? We recommend that you have a secondary enrollment for them in your district. And this is mainly because the home district is still responsible to participate in ARC meetings and other things with the students. So if you have that secondary enrollment in there, you can see that IEP and still be involved with the student. Transportation funding, you won't be putting a T code on that secondary enrollment because they won't come through. There's a secondary option where you claim transportation through our SEEK branch. Send that in, how many children you transport, if it's a daily trip or a residential student, and transportation can be funded that way. Okay, so once again, we're going to some attendance reminders. Stuck with just me today. So reminder for anyone who is new, attendance is to be taken daily at all levels. It's a responsibility, falls primarily on the classroom teacher, and that's through statute. And then that data is reconciled by the attendance clerks. Elementary school teachers must take attendance at the beginning of the school day. Middle and high school teachers have to take period attendance, and then that check-in, check-out data is maintained by the attendance clerk in the office. If somebody has to leave for an appointment or something, or is coming in late. No-shows. Going into the new school year, we always get a lot of questions on no-shows. A no-show is when a student completed the previous year with a CO1 status, which means we thought they were coming back, and then they haven't returned on the first day of school. So when the student doesn't return for the first day of school, they get that no-show enrollment. It's important to not delete a no-show enrollment. Instead, if you need to change they don't show up, you need to change that EO1 status to a no-show and enter the date that they have showed up. The only situation where it's appropriate to delete out that no-show enrollment is if you have a student, if you have a larger district, say you have multiple elementary schools and you thought Johnny was showing up at ABC and he showed up at DEF Elementary. They have still returned to your district. So you can delete that no-show out at where the elementary you thought they were going to attend because you have an EO1 starting on the first day of school at another elementary school or another school within your district. There's some great no-show guidance there on the KSIS data standard page. So feel free to look into that if you have any specific questions, or you can always reach out to us. Attendance clerk responsibilities, check-in, check-outs, and withdrawal codes are a big one. Maintain that sign-in, sign-out sheet. We've been harping the last few years a lot on knowing your school's half-day, whole-day checkout time so that you can maximize funding. Kentucky operates on a half-day, whole-day, down to the minute for check-ins and check-outs. So depending on when your school starts and when it ends and how many minutes you have in the day, everybody's half-day checkout time may be a little bit different. We say that because if you're an attendance clerk and know that your half-day checkout is, at, somebody's coming in late and that's 10:41, make sure that you get them in by that 10:40 time to get the full day attendance. Or if they're checking out and, mom comes into the office at 10:40, well, Johnny may not get there until, 10:50 or so. Make sure you're getting those times correct to maximize that funding. We also can help anyone who's trying to calculate that half day, whole day, reach out to us in district support, and we'll be happy to help you calculate when your half day, whole day cutoff time is for your specific school. The paper log or electronic sign-in log is required, and that's what we verify with during audits. We will look that the time mom signed the kid out is the time that the kid was checked out in Infinite Campus. This is probably our biggest finding on audits is that, mom signed in one time and then the IC checkout log didn't agree with that. Another reminder on the check-in checkout log, try to keep that covered. You don't just want a list of kids sitting there on your desk of who's in and out and who's there and who's not. Withdrawal codes or W codes are used to indicate when a student's enrollment has changed or they're in status. If they have, left your school and headed somewhere else, there is a list in the enrollment data standard that kind of tells you what withdrawal code to use in each situation. All of those actually are defined in statute, so they're very specific, and we track those. There's, for example, if they've left a homeschool or to private school or to another school and have moved to another district. So the enrollment data standards where you can find all of those. Okay, going on with some other attendance clerk responsibilities. Transportation codes, and this may not always be on the attendance clerk. This may be something that's given to somebody else as a responsibility for somebody else in your district, but T codes are very important. There's a big portion of the SEEK funding that is T codes and transportation funding. The T code will track how far and how often the student is transported. KDE recommends checking T codes twice a year in the district, at the first of the year, and then probably after Christmas break is when we recommend it, because there's a lot of changes that can happen over Christmas break. People move, people come in, work situations change. Maybe Johnny wasn't riding the bus and has started riding the bus. Want to make sure everybody is getting the proper T code, because those all roll up and go into the funding formula. As a reminder, they can roll from year to year. If you do not roll your T codes when you're rolling your enrollments, please make sure that you check them, because if there isn't a T code in there, it's going to default to NT or not transported, and there's no funding associated with that. Just kind of a heads up, you'll be seeing some announcements coming soon from Infinite Campus. There is a new transportation module that is coming out in Infinite Campus. They've made some additions to it in the future. We're recommending that everybody kind of hold on until you hear something from KDE before accepting this new and starting to use this new transportation module in Infinite Campus. One of the big reasons is right now it's not working with our state edition the way we need it to. The second thing is Once you choose to transition to this new transportation module, there's no going back. You can't get back to the old one. So it's giving some options for some local codes and to do some more local tracking in the transportation realm. We need to do some more testing here at KDE. It's kind of not there yet to work with our SEEK formula and make sure it does everything the way we need it to, transitioning to state. The biggest issue is that if some districts go to the new one and others don't, there's no way for us to see that in state edition because you can only see one view at a time. So as of right now, when they roll this out, we ask that districts do not turn on the new module at this time because when when you go to that new module, we want to make sure that we can assist you and help you with everything. So that's just kind of a heads up that that is coming, and we're asking that you not use that right now until you hear from us that it's going to work with the funding formula. Okay, non-resident district enrollment. This has always been an Infinite Campus. We've always asked everyone to use it, but it's kind of becoming even a little bit bigger deal these days with all of the virtual enrollments and students, House Bill 563, the increase of non-resident students. Everyone has a non-resident student policy now, and so those students that used to be covered under reciprocal agreements or non-resident contracts with other districts are now just in your district because of your non-resident policy. So any student who is enrolled in your district and lives outside of your district should have a non-district enrollment connected to their enrollment in Infinite Campus. It's just a drop down there on the state reporting fields. You select the district where they reside. So, even if it's a county to an independent district, if you're a county school and the student resides within the independent district, you need to choose that independent district there for your resident field. This is for in-person enrollments. It's also for those virtual enrollments. It's very important to have on those. CDE students or children of district employees. There are cases where there's a statute that says a child of a district employee can receive SEEK funding if they live in Kentucky and the parent works in your district, but we'd still like to see this district enrollment field populated for those CDE students. CDE will also have a flag on them to kind of give us a double check of those students. And we're asking that your primary and your secondary enrollments have this non-resident district enrollment. And that's a lot of times for those virtual enrollments, because I know sometimes this year, if you have a virtual student who's enrolled, you're going to have that primary enrollment in your A8 and then the secondary enrollment in that A1 where they're going to be accountable to. So please make sure the non-district field, the resident district field for non-district students is populated on both of those enrollments. Okay, we just talked about CDE kids a little bit, child of district employees. There are statutes that allow those students, even though they don't reside in your district, to receive SEEK funding. There's a flag in Infinite Campus that kind of just gives us a heads up and helps us to calculate how many of those students there are. CDE students that reside in your district should not have a CDE flag. If in my case, my husband is an employee in the district where our children go to school, but our children do not have to have a CDE flag because they still reside in that district, and that's the district they should be in. One of the important parts about CDE children has come up in the past week here. We received a couple of questions. We have a lot of districts that are on a border. So if you are bringing in teachers from out of state and they're bringing their children with them, they can attend your district, no problem. But those students, because they do not reside in Kentucky, even though they are CDE students, they still do not generate SEEK. That's only for students who reside in Kentucky. So we encourage boards to be involved in this so that they know, local boards, so they know how many CDE students from out of state are in their district, so how many they're not receiving funding for. In that case, the child will have a CDE flag, but they will also have an out-of-state attendance group that they're put on that'll account for them when you run the SAR. Okay, partial day, partial week. This is one is an attendance group and one is an attendance code. And this is for students who have an approval in their IEP to only be at school part of the time. For these partial day, partial week, you're going to receive full funding. You're going to click the waiver checkbox on the enrollment tab. Shortened school days or weeks have to be outlined in the IEP to say when it is. We've gotten a lot of questions before about 504 plans. Students can be on partial day, partial week due to their 504 plan, but you cannot check the full funding checkbox if this partial day, partial week is due to a 504 plan. You just have to set up the schedule and take the attendance when the student is with you. But if it's written in their IEP, you receive full funding for the time they are there and are not there because it's outlined in their IEP. There's a great data standard on partial day, partial week on the data standards page. Here is a screenshot to show you that partial day is that attendance group, and then the partial week is that attendance code. If you have partial day and partial week, if you have a student doing both, we encourage you to reach out to Josh because that setup, it doesn't happen often, but that setup can be a little tricky. We want to make sure you're getting your attendance group and your attendance codes correct. Oh, sorry, I went a little fast. So if you've checked the data standard and you can't exactly figure it out, or if you're doing, like I said, partial day and partial week, please reach out to us, Josh specifically, or me, and we'll make sure you're set up correct. We want to make sure you're getting all the funding you can for those students. Okay, state mapped attendance codes. They need to follow the guidance that's outlined in the System Administration Data Standard or in the Pupil Attendance Manual. No codes need to be mapped to a tardy status. Districts do not need to create exempt codes in addition to the exempt codes that are already outlined in the Pupil Attendance Manual. And that's because that exempt code generates funding for the student even if they are not at the school. So we have a list of approved exempt codes that are out there. If you think you need something specific for your district, reach out to us. There are some districts that have a couple that are exempt codes that are specific just to their district. So reach out to us. We just need to make sure we keep track of all of the exempt codes if we're ever asked, when are we funding and the student isn't in school. Speaking of one of those state approved exempt codes, due to Senate Bill 19 this past session, we have a new one out there. It is for moral instruction. The bill states that the district will receive funding for 1 hour or 60 minutes per week when a student is participating in moral instruction that is off campus. To properly check that, first of all, I believe I've seen that does include travel time, that 60 minutes. So we need to track when those students aren't in your building. You'll use this moral instruction exempt attendance code, check them out to that, and then check them back in. When they come back in, this exempt code will generate funding. This code is what's for the students. There is some additional tracking that's going to need to be done, I believe, on the providers of the moral instruction. I think guidance on that is coming out a little bit later, but I believe KDE will be also tracking those providers of the moral instruction. Okay, home hospital validation report. This report's been out there for a couple of years. It's a great report. If you are cleaning up before an audit or if you're cleaning up before you're running your monthly reports or SAR, it's a great one to have. It will detail all the information that you have to have for a home hospital student to make sure you're receiving your funding, make sure that your attendance group and your attendance code are both on the student. It'll make sure that you have the proper number of days. Statute until this year said that, and still says, the student needs to be on home hospital for over 5 days before home hospital services can be provided. There is a quick reference card on that report. You can access that through Infinite Campus or right here. I will talk about, very next slide, that one change that did come this year to home hospital during the session. House Bill 132, we were very excited about this because we have heard some districts who have had issues with this in the past. House Bill 132 has provided an allowance for Home hospital instruction to begin on the day of admittance if the student is in an inpatient facility. Not lots of districts. We have several districts who have an inpatient facility in their district. Excuse me, just a moment. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I knew it was coming. If you have an inpatient facility in your district and you have teachers who are in that facility and who provide instruction, anytime those students are accepted into that inpatient facility, you can now track home hospital instruction the day of admittance into the inpatient facility. You still work on the 2 visits per every 5 days, but you don't have to have the minimum, you don't have to hit the 6 days in home hospital before you can provide services. So if a student comes in for a 3 or a 5-day hold into that inpatient facility, a lot of times districts were providing instruction because it was the right thing to do. The student was there, keeping with their routine, keeping up with their schoolwork, but districts weren't getting funded for this because it hadn't hit the 6-day threshold yet that was in statute. This now allows you to provide instruction to those students. You still need to track like you do for other home hospital with the sheet that kind of shows the days instruction happens, the length of instruction. The rules still apply that if the student is not available for instruction or can't receive instruction on that day, you can take away the attendance if they couldn't do it. But our hope is that this is going to get some additional funding for those districts who are providing instruction in those inpatient facilities from that 1 to 5 day period. Okay, automated external defibrillator reporting, AED. I know this may not hit a lot of you who are online, but in our smaller districts, I know lots of you all wear multiple hats. So coming out here in the next probably couple months, you'll be hearing from our school health branch. In the past, you've been, the last year or two, you've reported the number of AEDs in Infinite Campus. House Bill 169 expanded upon that this year, and there are several other things that you're going to need to report on AEDs. Not only they still want the number and location of all of those AEDs in the school buildings, they're also asking us for the names, the school, the training date, and if the person trained on the AED was a district employee or a paraprofessional. And then there's also a question where they're asking about the progress made towards having AEDs at all school sanctioned events. So KDE is working and testing right now a new application where you'll be able to submit all of that. The good news is after you submit all of those names of those people trained the first year, they will roll over to the second year, and then you'll just be able to add and delete, and it won't be hopefully such a big lift the second year. Okay, so we're rolling right through. We're going to talk a little bit about virtual performance-based courses and the setup of performance-based funding. As I talk through this, we're speaking to the what we call traditional performance-based courses. These are the courses such as your dual credit courses or any course with your student receiving a grade based on your performance-based policy. This can be in your virtual school. They also have other options for seat time attendance that we'll talk through, but this course setup here is for those performance-based courses where you are generating attendance based on the successful completion of the course with a passing grade in grades 5 through 12. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but this is important. These performance-based setup, this is for grades 5 through 12. You'll see here on course setup for these, the attendance checkbox is left unchecked. And then under the type, you have that performance or virtual. There is that new ABV, which can be used for your virtual, or it's depending on if you're going to award that grade and receive that funding based on not having attendance every day, but just having your passing grade in there. We ask that Infinite Campus reflect as closely as possible what's actually happening in the school. If you give a student a performance-based course, it's important to note that that student cannot be checked in or checked out because there's no attendance. They're not supposed to be in this school during that. We understand that some people do have performance-based courses in school. You're going to need to track some attendance somehow, keep up with those students outside of campus in case there's an emergency, a fire or something. Also, there's no attendance, but there's also no behavior events. So if you have a student, we've run into this before, if you have a student who's all 100% performance-based, no attendance checkbox during the day, but they attend a football game and there's an incident and there was a behavior event, there's not going to be a way to attach that behavior event to that student. Let's see. Performance-based attendance does not count on growth factor, so it will not show any growth. So you may have a little lower ADA on that growth factor report. Seat time classes and these performance-based, you must obtain, seat time classes must obtain, excuse me, that Carnegie unit of time or 120 hours. Performance-based classes can be set up to earn that Carnegie unit of time, even if the course isn't long enough. Once again, students in grades kindergarten through 4th grade cannot generate attendance funding for these from these performance-based courses. It's not in statute. It's not something that's available. If you have virtual students in kindergarten through 4th grade in your virtual academy, or you have a virtual program or a AA8 virtual school, you can have virtual courses for students in grades kindergarten through 4th grade, but those have to be set up with blended learning groups where you take attendance check-ins twice a day and do that participation twice a day. We have another guidance document out on our site that kind of walks through those blended learning groups and the virtual attendance for those. Your typical performance-based courses are going to be if you have students in your district who have gone to Gatton or Craft, those dual credit college classes that we discussed, an online class where attendance is not taken, or credit recovery. If you have a credit recovery class where students are coming in and progressing through multiple classes, as quickly as they can to get caught up, those will more than likely be performance-based, so you can move seamlessly from, English 3 into English 4 whenever that's completed. Okay, there's some pros and cons on performance-based classes. A pro is you get 100% of the attendance when the student passes. But on the other side of that is if the student doesn't pass, you get no funding. You do not have to hit that 120 Carnegie hours in the schedule to, they're doing some work on their own, and it allows the student to work at their own pace. The no check-in, check-out, and the no behavior is something to keep in mind. And also that performance-based attendance is not going to be calculated into that growth factor report. Okay, here's some kind of a step through on what you're going to need to do to set up those performance-based courses. You're going to need to set up this course, going to schedule that student into the course, and then you're going to check funding to make sure you have it set up. You're going to use our funding gap audit report, which is what we're going to talk about. Oh, we have one more slide before we do that. When you're setting up the courses, it's going to be, we recommend setting it up outside of the day in that virtual performance-based course line here. What you're going to do is you're going to take those standard day minutes in your day, however many periods you have in the day, divide that out. Make sure you are setting the course outside of the day long enough to hit that 120 hours Carnegie unit of time, or that time. Because what's going to happen when you run your SAR, when you put a passing grade on that student, it's going to look at how much time they were in that course and generate that much ADA time on the SAR. So you want to make sure you have that course long enough. Every now and then, we'll show you on the funding gap audit report here in a minute, some people come up short on their what they're generating for their students, and it's because that course hasn't been made long enough outside of the day. Guidance on this and how to calculate it is also on our data standards page. And like I said, just like the half day, whole day, if you need help calculating this, reach out to us and we're happy to help you make sure that's long enough. Grading tasks. Grading tasks is very important with performance-based setup. We have lots of people or lots of districts who will have their students pass these performance-based courses, and they will put those passing grades directly onto the transcript. That is not connected to the course. When the SAR is run, you have to have a passing grade on your grading task. and it has to be on that final grading task for the SAR to pick it up and say, oh yeah, the student passed this performance-based class. There was no attendance. We're going to give them the chunk of ADA that's scheduled outside of the day. It will not look at the transcript for funding, and it has to look, it only looks at this grading task attached to the course. Once again, reminder, students in grades kindergarten through 4th grade cannot have performance-based courses. We ran into this at the very end of the year doing SAR. We caught it when it came in. There were on your record V, which is your performance-based courses on SAR. We had a district with attendance in their grades, kindergarten to 4th grade. And we had to reach out and say, hey, you've set this up incorrectly. Luckily, they were also taking attendance through another platform, and they could go back and kind of backfill that blended learning group attendance. So they had it somewhere else. But just want to make sure everyone understands grades kindergarten through 4th grade cannot have performance-based course funding. Funding gap audit report. This report came out, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago now, and we've loved it. The schedule gap audit report used to be what everyone went to make sure there were no gaps in their in-seat schedules. This funding gap audit report combines not only your in-seat attendance, but also that performance-based to ensure that you're getting the maximum funding. It's designed to look at both seat time and performance-based and put them together, because we know a lot of students, especially high school students, will have that time that they're in seat plus the time that they are doing dual credit classes, and make sure you're maximizing the funding. It looks at how much each student has, calculates it, and gives you a percentage that they're in seat time and a percentage that they are in performance-based. When you add those two together, the magic number is 93%. That's due to the way the schedules work and passing time and lunchtime being a non-instructional time. 93% is probably as the best that you'll get it. If you're less than 93% for any student who shows up on this, a couple things to check is there's an indicator on this report if they're a partial day, partial week student. So they're only supposed to be there a certain time, but you have that whole day funding checkbox checked. If you are coming up less than that 93%, you need to check to make sure they have no gaps in their schedule. If they're off seat time, there's a gap somewhere in their schedule. If they are doing that performance-based setup without attendance attached to a course, there's more than likely an issue somewhere. There's a checkbox not checked. There's the length of the performance-based course outside of the day isn't long enough. Kind of troubleshoot those, and if it's something you still can't find, I've got Sally here who just, I can't get to 93%, I don't know what's wrong, reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you. The quick reference card on this report in Infinite Campus, it'll be up at the top where you run the report. It's also a great tool to kind of walk through the report and see what everything means. Okay, so we are rolling on into duplicate student records and free and reduced application management area, or your FRAM, free and reduced lunch kids in campus. Samantha isn't here with me. Yes.
Would you like to do some questions before you move on?
I would love to do some questions. I just popped open the box. I was expecting them to pop open, and then I'm like, there they all are.
Well, right. I wasn't paying enough attention either.
It's okay.
I will say the same thing. So I'll read them off to you, starting at it's probably the most recent. Let's see, we get some more.
Questions.
So let's Kendra asked, is it okay to use the semester grading task rather than the final grade grading task for performance-based courses?
I am 95% sure on this one, Kendra. I will reach back out to you. I think it needs to be that final grade, because it's the final grade that is grabbed in there. I'm going to be honest, I'm on my own today. This isn't 100% my world. Josh will be able to verify for me. I'll shoot him a text here in just a second as soon as we get off, and put your answer right back in the chat here. But I believe that needs to be a final grade. But I believe we've had this question before. You can put a final grade on a semester course. So I think you can put that there, but it needs to be that final grade.
Yeah, Jesse, I think you're right on that, and we will create a Q&A document with these questions in there, so the final answers will be posted. But the importance of doing it, one way, it's not just because we're trying to be difficult. Right. We can pull your data and do the reporting on your behalf, but we have to have consistency in the way it's reported. That's why the standards are so important.
Right.
So,
and I know some people,
okay.
if I'm sorry, if you have a student who's not doing well in that performance-based class and you're moving them back in, I know sometimes you're like, well, I may not need that semester. They're moving on, but the final grade, they may still be continuing with that class, but that's the final grade for that semester.
So Deborah asked, is IC pushing down this new attendance code, or do we need to add it ourselves?
That moral instruction attendance code, I believe is what she's asking about.
I think so, yeah.
It should be there. When we looked,
Okay.
I believe it was pushed down. If you're not seeing it in your district, wave your little panic flag, holler at us. Everybody we checked, there's a lot of you guys, so we did some spot checks, but as many as we checked, it was there.
Jesse, it's only in 25-26 calendar,
Oh,
so don't
there
panic
it
if
is.
you're looking at 24-25.
Thank you,
Thank you, Lisa.
That may be why you're not seeing it.
Okay, Mark asked, if the student does not return after they've left for moral instruction, but the total time equals full funding, do we still need to check them back in?
No. So if like you have set your moral instruction to be at, 2:00 on a Wednesday, and they're going to moral instruction and then they're going home or whatever, you don't have to check them back in. Sorry, when I said that, I was just saying, if you're checking them out at 10:00, you have to check them out to the moral instruction code, but then you need to check them back into the I'm here in the room. That's fine.
And so just kind of a heads up for those of you that are thinking there is going to be a moral instruction providers for your district. Stay tuned, come back. If you're not, don't stay with us all day, come back for the KDE update, because we will, show you how the providers have to be put in Infinite Campus too. So at that time. So Alan asked, side number 26, is this correct? Contacted by district or contracted by the district?
All right, so I have a couple of options to make everybody. Oh wait, I think I can go back to 26. Sorry, hold on just a second, because I don't remember what was on 26. Alan, hold on just a second. Oh no, that's contracted. Yes, we forgot an R there, Alan. Sorry, that should be contracted by district. If you are contracting with those inpatient facilities to provide instruction, you can count this inpatient facility instruction. Sorry, we missed an R there. Yes, that should say contracted with the district.
Alan, thank you for pointing it out. It takes a village. We can get this corrected before we do the final stuff. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So Pam asked, I am not seeing the new attendance code, moral instruction attendance. So we mentioned that one. So you look at the 25-26 school year, see if you see there.
Right.
I'm reading before I'm actually thinking, I think. So Laura asked about, can you share the records retention time for attendance check-in, check-out paper logs?
Yes, I don't know that one off the top of my head. I'm going to have to go look for that one. I'll get that one, Laura, and make sure we put it in the FAQs. I may be able to get it so that it goes back in this Q&A before we're done here today, but it'll take me a minute to find that one. I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Sasha took care of it already. It's in the comments.
Oh, see,
okay,
Sasha. Thank you, Sasha.
So Mark asked, if the calendar is exempt, Ignite, do we still have to add the non-resident information for our P students? I guess performance-based students.
No. That's their
primary student. Okay. Primary.
So yeah, Mark, you have something weird going on in Boone County there with Ignite. You do not submit that data for SAR. And I think you're talking about your primary students who are Boone County students and not, we would like to see those Ignite students if they're in Ignite and they're coming from somewhere other than Boone County. Like if they're not Boone County students, if that makes sense. I may need to reach out and talk to you, Mark. So if you have a primary Boone County student who's at Ignite, I have that on the primary. But if I have a Kenton County student who's at Ignite, I would like that Ignite to show Kenton County so that they're going, because we'll have it already accounted for in Boone County with the primary. But we may need to reach out and talk about that one a little bit more, Mark.
So Michael asked, I understand the law has changed with A8 having to have the students also assigned to an A1 for accountability. But in the KAR 704 KAR 3, won't go into that. It states that students who are full-time virtual cannot be counted in attendance by using performance-based attendance. Is this correct?
Okay, so here's what's going on with those students, and we may be, it's getting very confusing. So performance-based attendance can be used for virtual or for A8 or non-A8 students in grades 5 through 12. Okay, that's just the funding mechanism for the student. Now, in grades kindergarten through 4th grade, you have to have those blended learning groups that you check attendance twice a day, okay, for a full-time virtual student. If you choose 5th grade through 12th grade, you can also use those blended learning groups and check in every course period for your full-time virtual students. It's another path that you have to change. But what that says is the performance-based attendance cannot be used for those grades, kindergarten through 4th. So I look at it as you have, one option if you have full-time virtual kids, kindergarten through 4th. They have to be in a blended learning group, and you have to check participation for seat time attendance twice a day. If you have 5th to 12th grade students in full-time virtual, you can do that one of two ways. You can have them in performance-based courses where you get the funding based on successfully passing the course, or you can do full-time virtual seat time attendance with those blended learning groups and participation. So I know it's very confusing, but if you're setting up full-time virtual for the first time, I recommend you reach out to Ben Maynard and then us here in district support and make sure you have it correct.
So Jesse, just to get through, make sure you get the rest of your content. I'm going to go ahead and stop questions, and we will continue to add responses here and also in the final Q&A too.
Awesome. I think I got Sasha on the backside helping me out. So thanks, Sasha. All right. So we are going to roll on and talk a little bit about, very quickly, duplicate students in FRAM, because I think I'm down to about 10 minutes here. See, Dee Dee, you were worried about me talking too fast and not getting through. All right.
You scared me. I'm sorry. I was trying to help you kill some time.
All right. Excuse me. Duplicate student records. That we're talking about SSIDs here. Sometimes students are mistakenly assigned duplicate SSIDs upon enrollment. It's a 10-digit number that everybody knows. To help prevent this, we highly encourage you, even if you've seen this kiddo before and he's been in your district, use the student locator prior to enrolling a new student. Make sure you're picking up that last enrollment if he went somewhere else, and you're pulling him in and you're not creating him or her new again. On the student locator, the birth date is now a required field. Hopefully that has helped us to get less duplicates, get less, John Smith, be able to differentiate from all of the John Smiths a little bit more. So make sure you're using that birthday. A lot of districts don't know that you all have a combined duplicate student capability in your district. If you find out that you have a student who has multiple SSIDs and they've all been created in your district, you can use this combined person wizard tool. If you're nervous about using it the first time, please reach out to Samantha or myself and we'll help you walk you through it. But if you can tell, oh, I just messed up. This Jesse is also this Jesse and I want to smush them together. That's where you do it, is in that combined duplicate student tool. If you find that a student has an SSID that they're sharing with another person outside of your district, that's where you need to submit a ticket. And because it needs to be split, the same SSID, the record needs to be split. There is an SSID issue Google form here that helps Samantha keep up with all of them. What you're going to need is district support. You need to make sure you've used the student locator. There's not a pending SSID number, and look at those before you submit that. But if it's something that's between you and another district and you can't get worked out, submit that and Samantha will help you split that out. If it's something that Samantha can't do, sometimes they're very intertwined and it's nothing that we can split out. That has to go to Infinite Campus and she'll help you put that in as well. All right, moving on to FRAM. For 25-26, household income forms are still going to be collected. These household income forms are processed through the FRAM module in Infinite Campus. You also, if you're even on HIF, you also need to do your direct certifications monthly. And we would like to try to get all of these entered into by October 1st, because that's the first wave of reporting for federal reporting and E-rate and other things. HIF processing can be completed electronically through FRAM processing and Infinite Canvas if you are a full CEP district. The issue comes into play when all of your schools aren't CEP. There's a few other ways for that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. You will need to contact campus and put in a support ticket to complete setup for that FRAM processing, but once you get it going, it's not the USDA form anymore. They can switch it over, make sure you're using that educational benefits form that's coming in. For partial CEPs, you're not able to use that FRAM processing in Infinite Campus if you're a partial CEP, but there's a couple of other ways that you can do it. Some people create an OLR form that mimics the HIF that uses an electronic signature that's then stored somewhere. Some people have created a custom form in Infinite Campus that goes directly to the parents for the schools that do need the HIF filled out and that can be signed. Non-CEP districts, if you're a non-CEP district, you will do your direct certification upload, but you also, for those other students, will need to complete a USDA meal form. We still have some districts who are not CEP and still have that meal form so that those students and the families who qualify for the income eligibility of free and reduced lunch can be verified and put in. Okay. I think we're going to be entering our second or third year on the state POS system. That is Heartland's Mosaic system. Our school and community nutrition folks have done a lot of great work working with Infinite Campus to get a lot of those direct certs and other things passed from one system to another. If you have an issue on that Mosaic side, please reach out to Tim Cooper or Dale Collier or anybody else who's your contact on that school and community nutrition side, and they'll be able to help you. Here are some additional FRAM resources on our CEP page. Reach out there, reach out to Samantha, reach out to myself if you're having any questions or issues. There should be, if you have a new FRAM coordinator, a new person dealing with FRAM in general, there's a lot of good guidance out there. PowerPoints, documentation, walkthrough of, what needs to be done. Okay, so my last slide here is just an overview of all of us here in district support that can help you in the attendance world. Rhonda Devine is the branch manager here. I know if you're a DPP, you're used to getting a lot of emails from Rhonda and hearing from Rhonda. Josh Whitlow, he's one who will be doing that attendance clerk training. He specializes also in some virtual and performance-based setups, so those questions go to him. If you're involved with SAR Growth Factor at all, you know Laura. She's the one who maintains that application, gets all of your SAR and Growth Factor applications uploaded and verified and back out to you. Samantha oversees the free and reduced lunch and those duplicate student IDs, so that's who you contact if you have issues there. And Rodney works with G-codes, N-status, and DASAR. If you're needing to create a new school, make changes to a school, make changes to a principal through People Role Manager, have any questions about that, Rodney is your guy who'll be able to help you. Once again, there's field staff. If you want to reach out and contact field staff, Sasha is Eastern Kentucky, Becky is Central, and Ruth is Western Kentucky. All right. Dee Dee, I think we are ready to roll back to some questions if I have any more.
All right. It looks like you've got at least one more question.
Okay.
I haven't clicked the button to see what else is up there, but this one might take you a little bit. 8 students must be assigned to an A1 for accountability, ? What does that entail?
Okay. So, getting out of my comfort zone a little bit here, Dee Dee, but here we go. So when the law changed this past year, when we say that A8 students must be assigned to an A1, that means that they must have a primary enrollment in an A1. So if you have an A8 school that is a full-time virtual school, there needs to be the A1 school that is going to be accountable for that student and their test scores, right? Because A8 schools are not accountable in the statutes. That's not an option. We don't do accountability for A8 schools, but we want those students to be accountable back to a school in your district. So they need a primary enrollment in the A1 school where they would have enrolled if they weren't in this full-time virtual program. Did I get that right, Dee Dee?
Yes.
You haven't yelled at me yet, yeah. Good.
No, I think that's right.
right.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, there's that performance-based exception stuff that gets in there, and it can
Right.
get a little wonky there. But yeah, I think it's always making sure that if you've got that A8 enrollment for 100% virtual students, that you do have an A1. If you're taking attendance for that student.
Enrollment.
So
yes,
primary
that primary enrollment where it goes back to.
All right. You do have a question about on FRAM. Do the IC online FRAM forms now have the option for parents to deny listing their incomes?
Unfortunately, they do not. That's still one that we don't have, and we know that is a pain point, because there's no way just to say I don't want to give my income, because it just says, well, I'm not filling it out. So we haven't been able to figure that out yet, because if you think about it, the form was technically designed to be given to families who want to qualify. So if you want to qualify for this, there's really no place to say, I want to qualify, but I'm not going to give you my income. So it's not there yet. And that question actually reminded me, we have had a couple of issues, not just like 2 issues come in. If you're noticing in your FRAM module that you're having any issues manually entering FRAM records, like I had a homeless coordinator reach out, and she was having trouble manually entering a FRAM record for a homeless student. It was not letting her put in the end date as 6:30. It was changing the end date, and it was kind of glitching out a little bit. If you're seeing anything like that, reach out to us. We want to make sure we elevate that to Infinite Campus. We're trying to figure out if this is a district specific issue or if it's something, statewide right now.
So T codes question. Beth asks, are T codes based on the distance from the school to the student's drop-off location, or the distance of the student's or the distance of student physically rides the bus?
Okay, so it is the distance the student physically rides the bus, because we've had that question before, because you may have your school may be here and the house may be here, but you may have to go this way to get to the house. It's a mile if they're on the bus for a mile. It's not a straight line distance, because we know that you can't chopper that kid over and drop them that 3/4 of a mile. You may have to, follow a bus route. You may have a one-way street. You may have a lot of things going on that it takes a mile to get them. So it's not a straight line distance.
So Jesse, I think that is it as far as questions. Hopefully I've not missed anybody, but so we're up.
I think I see one. Can I do one more real quick?
Yes, please. You've got a couple more minutes.
Okay. All right. So Tammy has asked, she said when the email to register for the attendance clerk training came, the registration link does not allow you to select your location. Let me check that, Tammy. Actually, there's a couple comments here. Hold on just a second.
Ryan added a link.
Oh, Ryan added the link. Okay.
Registration.
Okay, good deal. So hopefully that one will help. Hopefully, I think maybe you'll have the drop down there to select your location, Tammy. So hopefully, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that.
Anything else? We're up against the break. We can go early, or you can think of something that you maybe want to expand upon. Or somebody, if you have questions, go ahead and submit those.
Right. I think we've got everybody, and I'm going to be honest, for
Jesse,
me to go.
I want to add a caution on the combined person tool.
Okay, yes, please.
Very limited access to that, please. Yes. My camera's on for a second and then went away. I don't know what happened. Right. If you incorrectly combine persons that should not be combined, campus gets paid to untangle those records, and sometimes they can't. I ran into a case recently, a set of twins had been combined. They were seniors. They graduated last year. They had gone to another district for 3 months in 8th grade. And their names had 1 character difference. During virtual time, during COVID, somebody combined the 2 twins together. They had the same date of birth and almost the same name. So their records were all tangled up in that district. It messed up State Edition. We only had 1 copy of the student in State Edition after that. And then when we realized it as they graduated, campus could not undo it. They managed to get it where we could enter separate graduation records, but they couldn't get it all the way back. The district that had the students and graduated them was fine and didn't get hurt too bad because they already had them before then. But if they transferred to another district, they'd been all kinds of messed up. Just be careful. Make sure you know who you really got. And if you, we added,
you can always reach out to us first.
Yeah, we added the date of birth, but we still see people ignoring the fact that the date of birth that's showing on the person they're picking, the student they're picking, is not what they asked for. Mm-hmm. And then they go in and edit the identity record to a new date of birth. If you need to change the date of birth, stop. You don't have the right person. You don't have the right person if it's the wrong date of birth, even if everything almost looks the same. It's probably somebody else. They're probably in another district. And then you've pulled in if you do records transfer, you've pulled in data on a student you don't have any access to because they're not in your district. It gets into a mess real fast. So yes. Be careful.
Yeah. So thanks, Lisa. Thanks for that. Yeah. Make sure you're only giving that ability in campus to select few. And like I said, you can always reach out to us and say, I don't know, can you help? And we're glad to help.